Hi, it's Jay Shepard. Today we're going to look at some concepts that will help get you through the Arkansas All-State improvisation on the rock piece. I hope you enjoy this video and you can apply this material that you learned to many facets of your guitar playing and musicianship. Perhaps the most helpful thing to learn before improvising over this piece would be the chord changes. The changes look very complex, but really they're very simple in the fact that they use the same type of chord, just rooted in different roots throughout the piece. So for instance, you see a 9 sus4 chord written in every bar of the piece of some kind. Sometimes it's a D 9 sus4, sometimes it's an F, sometimes it's an E flat, sometimes it's a F sharp or G flat 9 sus4 chord. But the good news is for every one of these chords, there's really just about a billion ways to approach this 9 sus4 chord. But today I'm going to show you 3 or 4 really good ones that always sound good to beginning players. Sometimes it's helpful when you play over this kind of music to look at one opportunity or one scale at a time that can help you succeed over the material. So first things first, we're going to start with an approach that's going to use the minor pentatonic scale, which is a favorite of many electric guitarists already. So let's examine the chord structure of the 9 sus4 chord before we get started. Let's take a look at the notes that make up our D9 sus4 chord. Of course, we know we're going to need a D. And we know the sus4 element is a perfect fourth, so we're going to need a D and a G. And in any 9 chord, we're going to need a dominant 7 and a 9, unless it's notated we need a major 7. So there's our dominant 7, then our 9. So when we put it all together, and we can still have a perfect fifth on the top if we want, because I'm already holding it down. So it's simply just all these notes barred across the 5th fret, right? We could even double the A on the bottom and have what kind of is considered an open 5th. What's interesting about this sound is a lot of people may not hear a D as the root in this sound at all. You may hear the A as the predominant settling sound. Usually the only thing that can make this chord sound like any kind of D chord is the fact that the bass is playing the lowest note and provides a point of reference that points directly to a D. If I were just to play this on the guitar and put the A in the bass, notice that the A sounds real prominent. It sounds now like it's an A minor 11 chord and not a D9 sus4 anymore. But let's take a look at the different notes in the chord and see if we can find a scale we already know to cover all the bases. So we know we're going to need a D, a G, a C, a E, and an A. So what scale do we know that has all those notes? Well, I know one that you probably already know. A minor pentatonic has A, C, D, E, G. Then you're back to an A. You've got all 5 of the notes in the chord. So we're going to look at how this D9 sus4 chord sounds next to a minor pentatonic scale. Believe it or not, the A minor pentatonic scale is just but one option that'll work over this chord. One of the magical things about this chord is it doesn't denote a third of any kind in relation to the D. So a third of a D would be an F for a minor third, or an F sharp if you had a major third. So now what we can do is we can build a scale and pick either or, a major third or a minor third, and just see what happens. So we have a D, we know. We have an E in the chord as the 9. So let's try one of the Fs. How about an F natural? Then a G, so our 4. A is the 5. Then let's throw in a 6 for good measure. How about, B natural, a sharp 6. Then a C and a D again. The notes of this scale are actually what's called a D Dorian mode. The Dorian mode is just like a minor mode, except in a minor mode we have a flat third and a flat sixth, whereas in the Dorian mode we just have a raised sixth and a flat third. So they're almost the same, but they're one note different. Here, I'll play the D minor scale, and then I'll play the D Dorian scale, and you can compare the two. Here's D minor. And here's D Dorian. You may have noticed the sixth degree of the scale was 1/2 step higher. This is important because it's the difference in what gives this scale its color compared to the natural minor scale. This is a real good choice if you want a minor kind of sound over the D9 sus4. Let's go ahead and try this scale over the chord. Now let's try to build a scale off the same notes but use a major third. Let's look at that scale. So we have a D, an E natural, an F sharp, a G natural, A, B natural, C natural, and a D. It almost sounds like a major scale, but it's not a major scale, right? Because in a major scale, the second to last note is always just a 1/2 step away from the root. So we'd have a C sharp going to the D. But in this scale, notice we have a C going to the D. This scale is what's called a MIXOLYDIAN scale. It looks just like a major scale, except for the 7th note is flat by 1/2 step. Let's play a major scale and then compare it to the MIXOLYDIAN scale. There's a major, here's a MIXOLYDIAN. So the MIXOLYDIAN scale will also work very well over this D9 sus4 chord. Because the third of the chord is ambiguous, because it's a fourth and we don't really know where it's at, we can use either or. So remember that. Now we have 3 options already that we can use over this D9 sus4 chord. So if we back up and look at the D Dorian scale, let's play it here in 10th position like the example earlier. Well, notice that it's almost close to a pentatonic scale, a D minor pentatonic scale. Earlier when we used the pentatonic scale to solo over this chord, we used an A minor pentatonic, just because it had all the same notes as the chord that we're trying to use. But if we use a D minor pentatonic scale, the D minor pentatonic scale has many of the same notes in it as D Dorian, except it doesn't have the sharp 6 of the scale, or it doesn't have the natural 2 of the scale, but it has all the rest of the notes. So there's a D minor pentatonic, and here's a D Dorian. So notice they sound almost the same, except for one is missing a couple notes. So D pentatonic would also be, D minor pentatonic would be a great option also to use over this. So now we got 4 different options. So a quick way that we can get 2 more options out of this is we can add a blues note to both of our minor pentatonic scales. So we can go back to our A and to go ahead and put our flat 5 in there, or sharp 4, or whatever you want to look at it as. And that'll work great over this chord. We can also do the same thing here in D. So, now I think we have 6 options or something like that. Here's a quick piece of advice that I feel I needed to give you. Sometimes you may find it easier, especially if you're a rock guitarist and grew up with a pentatonic scale, you may find the Dorian patterns a little easier to navigate and grab on the fly. And the MIXOLYDIAN one may seem more distant or confusing compared to the Dorian. One way you can trick yourself into playing a MIXOLYDIAN scale is to simply play the Dorian a fourth lower. So for instance, if we were looking for D MIXOLYDIAN, if we played A Dorian, we'd be playing the same notes. If we wanted G MIXOLYDIAN, we could just play D Dorian and we'd get the same notes. So remember that little tip, and it'll carry you a long way in finding new sounds. The first step to understanding the chord changes in this piece is to understand that you're changing from one type of chord to the same type of chord. The only difference is you're changing the root of the chord. So one way to illustrate this over using the scales is we can compare the root motion from chord to chord and then do the same thing for the scale. So for instance, if the D9 sus4 chord is followed by a F9 sus4 chord, we know that it's 3 frets higher than the other one, right? D, up a minor third to F. So if we were going to use A minor pentatonic for the D, when we got to the F, we just need to move 3 frets up to the C minor pentatonic. And then if we move back down to D, we just move 3 frets back down to A minor pentatonic. So that's one way you can kind of cheat your way through this, and it's not a bad way to get started. So in this next example, let's play through the chord progression, and we'll just play a minor pentatonic and then a C minor pentatonic and follow the same pattern for each chord. Check it out. Now let's do something similar, but this time, instead of shifting positions to each pentatonic scale, we're going to try to play each pentatonic scale in a position that is more close to the previous scale. That way we're not just shifting around from our first finger on the root every time we make it and shift a scale. You'll see what I mean. Here's the next example. Now that you kind of have this chord progression and form in your ear, I think it would be a good opportunity now for you to go ahead and to experiment with the MIXOLYDIAN and the Dorian scale. So stick to the Dorian scale for every root, and then try the MIXOLYDIAN a little bit for every root. Don't do them both at the same time right now. Just pick one and try to stick with it and really hear that sound through the entire piece. So, you know, start with D Dorian and then go to F Dorian, and then when the chord changes to E flat and F sharp, you know, always use those Dorian modes that are on the root. And then when you get comfortable with that, go back and try with the MIXOLYDIAN and get that sound in your ear. Go for it. So if you're anything like me, after you've been improvising over the same chord progression, just trying to learn some basic scales to get through the changes with it, some of your ideas may start sounding very scalar and mechanical and not very organic or human. The phrasing may sound real choppy or artificial. One way to break out of this type of playing without too much work, especially for a young player, is to learn a melodic pattern to practice over it as opposed to just the same old scale pattern. For instance, you'll see a couple examples coming up. One with the Dorian and MIXOLYDIAN scales, where you'll see we'll play the scale by skipping thirds and so forth. And then we'll do it descending. And then we'll also do the same thing in a way, but instead of playing it in thirds, we're going to go up 4 notes, then down a third. And then on the way down as well. The pentatonic examples you'll see are very interesting, and the fact that they use 16th notes, but we're playing groups of 5 notes. So you have this really weird fight between a melodic pattern and a rhythmic pattern that come together and make their own unique thing. So we'll go down 5 notes and then start the next pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. but we're going to play it over 16th notes, so like 1 E and 2 E and and it'll change the feel quite a bit. You'll see what I mean. Practice these patterns over the scales that you're going to use for these chords, and you'll find that your playing will immediately spark new interest in life. Once you've practiced with this material for a few weeks, you may notice that your ear starts to become very quick in how it picks up right or wrong notes or anticipates a new chord. This is good. This means that your ear is learning the music and anticipating the different possibilities of harmony and possibilities of scale material to use over each chord. By that point in development, you should probably be able to kind of sing through the chord changes with your voice and come up with some ideas that sound good, but you may not know where the notes are. This is a good opportunity to teach your guitar playing things that your ear already has built in. So what do you mean by that? By example, I mean if you find yourself singing something just naturally in tune over the chord progressions that you're using, try to find that phrase that you're singing or those notes that you're singing on the guitar all the time. Once you're able to do this, you'll be amazed about how many different ideas and just a plethora of different melodic structures and sequences and things that just naturally come out of your ears just by virtue of listening to a lot of music since you've been young. And on that note, the last best thing I can tell you about improvisation is it's a language, and it comes from listening to music and other people successfully improvise over music for years and years and years. If you're going to be a great improviser in whatever genre or style that you're trying to improvise in, you're going to need to listen to a lot of the artists that are successful and are doing well over the things that you're wanting to improvise over. So always be on the hunt and ask around for different people and different artists that you need to be listening to to sound a certain way or play in a certain genre. And then on the other token, the other best piece of advice I can give you is just the opposite of that. If you find that you're doing something different and you get a good response and you really like it and other people really like it, and it just generates a good feeling about what you're doing, don't abandon it for something else. Really stick to what you feel are your original ideas and try to develop them. And over time, you'll find that you'll develop a style that's uniquely your own, which is perhaps the most important thing you can do as a musician, to give yourself identity and originality with your music. So stick to your guns, but don't be afraid to go out and listen to other artists to give you ideas. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments or things you need more help with, feel free to email me at the address below, and I'll be glad to get back to you. I'll also be glad to come assist if you're a band director, give a clinic or some private lessons. If I'm in the area, don't hesitate to contact me about that as well. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.